Now learn a parable of the fig tree. When a branch is yet tender and put forth leaves, you know that summer is near. So you in like manner, when you see these things come to pass, know that it is near, even at the doors.
Verily I say to you,
That this generation shall not pass till all these things be done. Heaven and earth shall pass away, but my words shall not pass away. But of that day and of that hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels which are in heaven, neither the Son, but the Father. Take ye heed, watch and pray, for you know not when the time is. For the Son of Man is as a man taking a far journey, who left his house and gave authority to his servants, and to every man his work, and commanded the porter to watch.
watch ye therefore, for you know not when the master of the house cometh.
At even, or at midnight, or at the cockcrowing, or in the morning, lest coming suddenly he find you sleeping.
And what I say unto you, I say unto all, watch.
All right, good day. Welcome to Line by Line Bible Studies. I was in a little problem there. I just realized I didn't have my camera set up properly. Okay, let's get reading. I think we're going to start in the middle of this chapter and read maybe a little into the next one. Yeah. Let's just start from about verse. Well, verse 15. When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation, spoken of by Daniel the prophet, standing in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand. Then let them which be in Judea flee to the mountains. Let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house. Neither let him which is in the field turn back to take his clothes. And woe to them that are with child, and to them that are give suck in those days. But pray ye that your flight be not in the winter, neither on the Sabbath day. For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. And except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. Then if any man shall say to you, Lo, here is Christ, or there, believe it not. For there shall arise false Christs, and false prophets, and shall show great signs and wonders, insomuch that, if it were possible, they shall deceive the very elect. Behold, I have told you before. Wherefore, if they shall say unto you, Behold, he is in the desert, go not forth. Behold, he is in the secret chambers, believe it not. For as the lightning cometh out of the east, and shineth even unto the west, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For wheresoever the carcass is, there will the eagles be gathered together. Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers of the heavens shall be shaken. And then shall appear the sign of the Son of Man in heaven, and then shall all the tribes of the earth mourn, and they shall see the Son of Man coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great glory. And he shall send his angels with a great sound of a trumpet, and they shall gather together his elect from the four winds, from one end of heaven to the other. Now learn a parable of the fig tree. When his branch is yet tender and putteth forth leaves, ye know that summer is nigh. So likewise ye, when ye shall see all these things, know that it is near, even at the doors. Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass, till all these things be fulfilled. Heaven and earth shall pass away, but my words shall not pass away. But of that day and hour knoweth no man, no, not the angels of heaven, but my Father only. But as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For as in the days that were before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day that Noah entered into the ark, and knew not until the flood came, and took them all away. So also shall the coming of the Son of Man be. Then shall two be in the field, the one shall be taken, and the other left. Two women shall be grinding at the mill, the one shall be taken, and the other left. Watch therefore, for ye know not what hour your Lord doth come. But know this, that if the goodman of the house had known in which watch the thief would come, he would have watched, and would not have suffered his house to be broken up. Therefore be ye also ready, for in such an hour as ye think not, the Son of Man cometh. Who then is a faithful and wise servant, whom his Lord hath made ruler over his household, to give them meat in due season? Blessed is that servant whom his Lord, when he cometh, shall find so doing. Verily I say unto you, that he shall make him ruler over all his goods. But and if that evil servant shall say in his heart, My Lord delayeth his coming, and shall begin to smite his fellow servants, and to eat and drink with the drunken, the Lord of that servant shall come in a day when he looketh not for him, and in an hour that he is not aware of, and shall cut him asunder, and appoint him his portion with the hypocrites. There shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Yeah, Matthew's is much more drawn out than Mark. Mark is always more concise. Interesting. And when people look at the differences in things in the Gospels, I say a lot of these things he said on many occasions, probably. Axiomatic statements. My kids will tell you, I repeat myself all the time. It's just it's when you're in the business of instructing people, like children, or you just find yourself doing it a lot because you have lessons to convey and experiences to share. And so Jesus also doubtless repeated things over and over again. And when they wrote the gospel, they remembered there was a thing on the sermon on the Mount of Olives. And, if other things that he had said that also were just remembrance and put in their narrative, sometimes people don't understand that it's not meant to be a concise blow by blow, minute by minute surveillance footage of the life of Jesus. Anyways, the differences in the Gospels are not that important. It's the content of the teaching. It's like, you understand, so the way God inspired the book leaves room for plausible deniability. That's why it's not, you can't take the Bible and prove to someone that, this proves God's existence. Yes, it does. It's like, no, it doesn't. The word has to be believed. It requires faith. Now, that's not to say that it's blind faith or faith without evidence. Not at all. My faith is definitely not based on just blindly believing the things that are in the Bible. I take it very advisedly. I looked at it skeptically. I do not just blindly follow. That's why someone said something to me once. I said, I'm not a shepherd of sheep. I don't instruct people to be blind followers, sheep-like. That racket is for other people. That's not for the servants of God. Servants of God, Anyways, not that there isn't a purpose for shepherding and that kind of role, because it is actually in the Bible. There's only one verse that puts it in there, Pastor. Oh, yes. Jesus is the true shepherd. All of us could be considered maybe assistants, assistant shepherds or something like that. But, we need to learn, each of us, to forge our relationship with God on his terms with us. Because though there's one way to heaven, we each have our own road to walk, our own burden to bear. All right. All right, it says here that the deception is so great. It would be, and again, counterfactual. They're not going to deceive the elect. It's made so that they don't. Okay? So it's not like, oh, you don't have to think too hard about it. Just like the things I was saying before about the differences. I'm not terribly concerned because it's like, no, I'm sure these kind of things were said, especially the things that are not directly related. So he said, behold, he is in the desert, go not forth. Behold, he is in the secret places, secret chambers, believe it not. See, there's this idea of being taken by Antichrist, taken away by the flood. The flood came and took them all away. One shall be taken, the other shall be left. No, Paul, you got it wrong. The ones that are taken in the rapture. You want to be that one that's taken. You don't want to be the one that's left. In the Bible, often you do want to be the one that's left. It's the remnant that's left. It's a very prominent prophetic theme from the Old Testament. And people who teach otherwise kind of don't know their prophecy. That's all I can say. They kind of don't know their prophecy. Behold, we shall flee upon horses. Oh, but they that pursue you shall be swift. See, there have been other times in history when people sought to escape the consequences of their sins. The natural consequences. Like I talk about Daniel. Daniel was taken captive to Babylon. Daniel was a faithful worshiper of Yahweh. Okay? It's very clear. The three Hebrew children in the fiery furnace. These are the things that supposedly, that we believe that ingratiated them and made them find favor with the Persians. Right? Well, why were they captives? What did they do? Did they do something wrong? Well, no. No, they didn't. But they were caught up in the captivity that happened because of the way the nation had gone astray. And don't think that, lots of Christians, and it's not always necessarily the nation's gone astray. There's evil men that do evil things. There's a lot of history. If you don't know, look at history. It's like, that's how often I pray for our country because we need to make peace. War doesn't do war. What is it good for? Absolutely nothing. Except settling scores. Well, it's good for one thing: revenge. Settling scores, and the scores do need to be settled. There is one only that in righteousness doth judge and make war. He is judge. He makes war. He kills. He makes alive. He does all those things because he's God. We don't play God as human beings. We should not. We should defer to the divine. For, the coming of Christ ultimately is going to be this worldwide event. No one's going to be, and the point is, you won't be deceived about the actual coming of Christ. First of all, because those who are, this is not revealed here by Jesus. In fact, my hair's just going crazy today. All right. There we go. It's settled down. Oh, that's so much better. It's distracting me. I'm saying this rooster top. I didn't look in the mirror before I got on here. I was like, okay. Antichrist is going to try to convince you. Jesus, you don't need to be convinced. In a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, and this we agree on, I believe in the scriptures too. In a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trump, for the trumpet shall sound, and the dead in Christ shall be raised, or the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we that are alive and remain shall be changed. And we shall be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air. The dead in Christ rise first. The last to die are the two witnesses. They die at the end, and then 3.5 days later, they rise from the dead. That's the resurrection. That gives you the timetable. Remember what he said? When you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, that's the trigger. Later on, he talks about the parable of the fig tree, and it's like, when you see these things come to pass, man, these described, especially that abomination of desolation, it is at the doors. Now, that means very close. But when he comes, there'll be no mistaking it. It's like one of those events that everyone shares. It's a common. Every human being on the earth is going to experience the return of Jesus Christ simultaneously, and there will be no mistaking it, because it's going to be It's not going to be like bargaining and whatever it is Antichrist gets up to and all the stuff that happens, the nonsense. If you thought the pandemic was kind of crazy, you ain't seen nothing yet. Okay, as to what humans are capable of. But anyways, but he comes like that. And then he throws this in. For wheresoever the carcass is, there will the eagles be gathered together. And I think, see, when Matthew is like recording this, if Matthew indeed is the author, it doesn't matter to me. That's just tradition. But, when I say Matthew, I mean the Gospel of Matthew. Okay, let's talk it that way, because that's what it's called, for easy understanding and reference. It feels like a verse that got plugged in here because he was like, Jesus said something. He made this cryptic sentence. He said this more than once. It's also in Luke, and we'll go there, where I think they have it in the proper context. And it is in the proper context, but it's not in sequence the way it is in Luke, the way it makes it very clear. Okay, and Luke was in the treasury. It's a different account. It's not the one on the mount. Like Matthew and Mark, they're both on the Mount of Olives. Now, one of the ways they reconcile the idea of two accounts, which is one of the ways, is that Matthew records a second telling of the same speech, whereas Mark, it's different because there were two speeches with it back to back. Like, say that again. What I mean, and you know what? And honestly, that makes sense on a certain level, but why it would be written that way, broken up into two things like that. That seems less likely, and again, unless you're positing it's just a miracle, and it's like, what, I don't like that. It's not so important to me, but it's a really interesting verse. Wheresoever the carcass is, there will the eagles be gathered together. What's that mean? Well, eagles, birds of prey. I'm not even sure. I'm going to check the thing, because I'm under the impression that word is not really eagles. The King James, they would use it generically, eagles, for different kinds of birds, and obviously, it's not like a bald eagle. Not that a bald eagle would be above eating carrion, because that's what this means. It's like a little proverb. Where the carcass is, well, that's where you find the vultures. Wheresoever the carcass is, there will the vultures be gathered together. I'm just saying vultures, birds of prey, carrion birds. That's what it's talking about. And it's true. When you'll see a gathering of vultures around a carcass, And one of the keys is, here's another key. This just came to me. What do they do to the whore? Who are the vultures? Who are the, Well, I definitely am not sure. If I never thought of who. There's a verse from Revelation 20, of course. The supper of the great God. Well, actually, it starts in chapter 19. Come and gather yourselves together to the supper of the great God, that ye may eat the flesh of kings, and eat the flesh of captains, the flesh of mighty men, the flesh of horses, and them that sit on them, the flesh of all men, both free and bond, both small and great. There's this great feast proclaimed to the birds of prey. And it has to do with the blood to the horse's bridle that's spoken of. It has to do with the winepress of the wrath of God. And so but what's interesting is I was thinking about the thing that just occurred to me that I hadn't said yet. There's an interesting correlation, I think, between the idea of vultures eating a carcass and the merchants. No, the kings of the earth who hate the whore, how they eat her flesh and burn her with fire. These shall hate the whore and make her desolate and naked, and eat her flesh and burn her with fire. Again, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. Right? For God hath put it in their heart to agree, and But I thought that was kind of interesting because I hadn't thought about it in terms of Armageddon. and the supper of the great God. Like that might be a linkage there to the great whore. Because who else is going to be there? Except, that's part of the great whore is going to be partaker of the blood of the prophets and all that stuff. I mean, she's drunken with the blood of saints. The wrath of God is pointed right at the whore. Which is pretty scary considering Christians think that there's no wrath of God. They're told, wrath of God's not for you. Oh, not for you, believer. No. But for nominal people who go about doing wickedly and pretend to be Christian and, I don't know. The Lord judges. Here's the thing, people excuse themselves for whatever reason from whatever, thing they were accused of. We excuse ourselves. We make excuses. We justify ourselves. And you can convince me, but that doesn't matter. I'm not anyone's judge. God is going to judge each of us, and our conscience is going to bear witness. We know when we've done wrong. There is an inadvertent wrong, of course. Let's look at the verses in Luke regarding this. Luke 17. I'm bringing it up in a second here. I think it's the last verses. And the reason I put it, because, like I said, here it seems kind of jacked in right here in verse 28. And it is in the right, it's not like it's in an awkward place. I mean, it makes sense because at the coming of Jesus, that's when the carcass is going to be there. The carcass spoken of in the Feast of the Birds. And in Luke here, I'm going to put it on your screen now, if you care to read along. We see now in Luke, verse 36 and 7. Well, let's look at this. Oh, I love this passage. Let's just go, let's just read a bit of this. I love reading the Bible. Right? What was one of the things he said? And as it was in the days of Noah, verse 26, so shall it also be in the days of the Son of Man. They did eat, they drank, they married wives, they were given in marriage, until the day that Noah entered into the ark. And the flood came and destroyed them all. Likewise also as it was in the days of Lot. They did eat, they drank, they bought, they sold, they planted, they builded. But the same day that Lot went out of Sodom, it rained fire and brimstone from heaven and destroyed them all. Even thus shall it be in the day when the Son of Man shall be revealed. In that day, he which shall be upon the housetop and his stuff in his house, let him not come down to take it away. And he that is in the field, let him likewise not return back. Remember Lot's wife. Whosoever shall seek to save his life shall lose it, and whosoever shall lose his life shall preserve it. I tell you, in that night shall there be 2 men in one bed. The one shall be taken, the other shall be left. 2 women shall be grinding together. The one shall be taken, the other left. 2 men shall be in the field. The one shall be taken, and the other left. And they answered and said unto him, Where, Lord? Where? And he said unto them, Wheresoever the body is, thither will the eagles be gathered together. It's the same carcass, the carcass. I think it's the same word even. Let's see. Carcass is patoma. What? That can't be right. Oh, a fall, because it said a fall, but like a fallen one. It means properly to fall, but it refers to a fallen body, like a dead body, like we would say the fallen. So, okay, but anyways, and I'll in Luke. Do I have to look it up in Luke? I should. I like to be definitive, and I like to check on myself, and it's good to, remind myself, are those exactly the same? I don't know if I've ever compared that. Oh, excuse me. Oh, I'm in the wrong version of the Bible. I'll allow you to be tortured with me. Luke 17, last verse. The body here is also, it's different. Soma, a body. Well, whatever. It's the same idea, though. Get it? The point is, he's saying it in the same context. All right, it's not the exact same word. I'm glad I didn't get all up on my high horse and say it's the exact same word. Body, flesh. Sometimes it's the body of the church. That doesn't mean, that's meaning, not definition. That's because sometimes in the Bible, words that are Greek have a greater meaning to us, like, because they're coined, like Christ, anointed one. It is a Greek word, Christos. The Hebrew was Mashiach. It's the body, and figuratively the mystical body. It's used that way. Like here, Jesus talks about your whole body to be thrown into the fire. Wheresoever the body is, there will the eagles be gathered together. Now, when you're talking about vultures gathering, it's pretty easy to get to the idea of a dead body. Okay, that's why we're not really going to worry about the words being different. It would be fine if they were the same, but different authors use different words. Matthew explicitly uses corpse, but or carcass, but Luke does not, and it's no big deal that there's a difference. But because the proverb or whatever he's saying here, how you want to describe that, it's clearly the same thing. He's talking about the vultures gathering, and they were saying, where, when they're taken, where are they taken to? Because we don't know. We don't have to ask where was the other guy left. We know he was left in the bed. We know they were left at the mill. We know he was left at the field. We don't have to ask where they were left. The question is, where are they taken? Because that's the only mystery. We know where the other guy is. He's back at home. Where did these folks go? Well, you can figure it out by looking for the swirling vultures in the sky. That's Jesus' happy-go-lucky clue. You know what I mean? That's pretty dark. And that's what it means. You can find, we want to know where they are. They're where it's like, where do they go? To their dooms. That's what he means. That's what that means. The place where that's where doom is. Where you find the eagles circling. It's the place of the battle. The place of the slain. Having their eyes eaten out by vultures. I mean, to be graphic, but it's about the best thing you can hope to be done with all that flesh. Immediately after the tribulation of those days shall the sun be darkened, and the moon shall not give her light, and the stars that fall from heaven. This is a common motif of the end. It's one of the things it says in Revelation, in the Old Testament. It's everywhere. The sun shall be darkened. Now, again, I should say the sun will be darkened, but at the coming of Jesus, it's going to be darkened. There's a third part of the darkening, and during that, the Antichrist ceases. You can read in Revelation, we just studied it a few months ago. In the trumpets, there's an obvious darkening of the sky described before the Antichrist even appears, or at the time he appears. They're pretty close together. When we start seeing those things happening, and then, like I said, he says, but when you see the abomination of desolation, he's like, what did Jesus say the biggest sign to look for is? What's the lesson? Antichrist. The false Christ. When you see that, when you've identified it for sure, and he's given us some pretty clear idea of what it's going to look like. It's not that and a lot of people aren't going to think it's an abomination. It's only going to be an abomination to those who understand, because that's what what did it say? Different people hold different things in abomination, just like the prohibition on pork. They hold it as something that we don't eat. It's something wrong with it. It's disgusting, or it's forbidden for whatever reason. Some people say, oh, it's because of trichinosis or something, and that's not worth considering when you consider as long as you cook it thoroughly. And still, that's very rare, even if you didn't cook it thoroughly. I like everything cooked thoroughly, honestly, except eggs. I actually, over the years, I've come to appreciate things that are not quite so overdone. Okay, so there'll be a tribulation, and the sun will be darkened. The moon shall not give her light. The stars shall fall from heaven, and the powers that are in heaven shall be shaken. That's for sure. There's going to be a big shakeup. Then shall appear the sign of this, because Satan's, after Jesus returns, Satan then is going to be bound. And I think he's going to be bound, the way it's described, he's going to be bound in the bottomless pit. That means, from the way I understand is, he's going to be more restrained than he is now during that 1,000 years. Certainly, I mean, consider the fact that the governments of this world will be the governments of Jesus Christ. He's taking over the government of the world. Satan will no longer be the one who can boast about giving the power of the nations to whoever he wills. I said, that doesn't mean that God doesn't have a hand in it or have a veto over it or anything like that. But lots of Satan's people get in there, don't they? The Lord allows it. But not always. You know, he's always full of it a bit. You know, just like when you read, he always quotes the scripture and, you know, he twists the meaning. I'm not so worried about him not, like people fret about the fact that he didn't quote it exactly. I'm like, he got the basic idea. What? It says you're going to catch you, the angels are going to catch you. What didn't you get about that? Don't you believe the Bible? Oh, he misquoted it. If I quoted it exactly, I could still make the same temptation. I could, what are you going to say? Well, no, it says lest at any time. I'm like, what are you talking about? Get out of here. Now he goes about this parable of the fig tree. This is not really related to the other thing when he cursed the fig tree, except that it's sort of, no, I don't think so. I used to think because the fig tree represents Israel, that maybe that, you know, because that was a big thing for me growing up. It was like, oh, the fig tree, 1948, Israel. Arnold Murray used to say the good and the bad. I didn't know what he meant by that. I thought I knew what it meant, like that there was good, that there were good people and bad people and all people, which is what I do think is true. And so I tended to think that way, even though I realized later on, it's like, I don't think that's what he meant. He didn't mean some of them are all right. No, I don't know. I'm not going to speak for other people. Even so, I don't think here the point is at all, that what he's saying here very simply, when you see, you know, basically, you know, hey, when a fig tree blossoms and has a tender and it puts out leaves, you know, it's summertime, right? It's very easy to tell because of the fact that it grows like that, right? You know, you can kind of tell because of that. He's like, well, so when you see all these things, know that it is near, even at the doors. It's a very simple parable. You know, and there may be some deeper meaning to it. I've explored that at time. Yeah, maybe it does refer something to like, oh, here's the thing is like, I don't believe when Jesus cursed the fig tree, you know, I don't think that the fig tree, that old fig tree is meant to be restored prior to the coming of Jesus. I mean, he restores, like they said to him, will you at this time restore the kingdom to Israel? Israel was to be restored to the kingdom, to the throne of David, not to some Marxist kibbutzes and stuff. I mean, it was not. That's not the way the Old Testament or the New described the return. It actually doesn't describe another return. They have to go back to the old returns to sort of like extrapolate. Oh, they're going to return. Now, I always think of it as like the most, you know, we return to the land by returning to the Lord. And he can bless us wherever we are. That's why, you know, in the Jesus ministry, they were really getting away from all this blood and land stuff. You know what I mean? And even in the Old Testament, it was never just like, oh, all our blood, it's all blood, blood, blood. You're good. As long as you're of our race, you're good people. They weren't like, that's not what the Old Testament says at all. People act like that. Like, I remember watching a congressman say, you know, all I know is that Israel I read my Bible, and Israel are the good guys. Did you read your Bible? You didn't read all of it, and you weren't paying attention. Israel are the good guys. Get out of here, the good guys. There's a mixture. Read the Kings. They're the good guys, huh? Most of them were bad guys, actually. And then, and same thing with the people corrupted themselves. There were good guys and bad guys. That's the way it is. There were prophets and false prophets, just like in the old times, just like now. Man hasn't changed a bit. Our technology is different and stuff like that. Just rendering us all the more fragile for the great fall. Because I would definitely prefer that Jesus return than our civilization collapse. Because with the return of Christ, there's great hope and rejoicing, and with civilizational collapse, there's just enduring and moving on and looking to the day of his return, whenever that shall be. Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass. He's referring, all these things is repeated in the verses. When you see all these things, know that it is near. So when you see, and when that is the case, well then, that generation will not pass. Obviously, because it didn't, that's what you obviously have to read it. And obviously it is, I remember, I think it's interesting that the Lord puts into the Bible things that make you kind of think, like, is that what it means? Was he talking about his day? And people really will think that. And that's okay, because it's like I said, in some regard, Jesus did not want to leave us with a sense of complacency. It's very clear. He's like, watch. If you knew what hour, you're not going to know what hour. You better watch out. Well, and there's also a dual thing. On the one hand, and heaven and earth shall pass away, but my words shall not pass away. But on the one hand, let's keep moving, because I want to skip ahead, but we'll just move. And also that idea. This does kind of make you feel like, when he says this, it makes you feel like there's going to be some time go before this is fulfilled. Like, heaven and earth. Why are you talking about that? Heaven and earth passing away is like billions of years from now. Are you saying it's going to take that long? I hope not. But it won't, really. Because even if it's just, we get to the end of our lives and things still keep going on and it seems like they're not going to stop, and Antichrist, I don't know. But I trust the Lord that when I die, I will stand before the judgment. And I will have, when he comes for me, he will find me so doing. His will. And then he says, of course, but of that day and hour knoweth no man. Nobody knows the day or the hour. And that's like the exact moment. Now, he's already told us that when you see certain things, you'll know that it's really close. So it's not that. It's like and this is what I've always said. People always are talking about, we're in the end times. And since I was a kid, they were telling us we're in the end times. I was a kid 40 years ago. And guess what? They were telling us that we were in the end times before I was a kid. So, at some point you got to stop and say, like, well, maybe we're not in the end times. And you know what? I declared about a couple decades ago that, we're not in the end times yet. And guess what? I was right, because every time we go 7 years back, what was that? 2017. Even at that time, I predicted that the sign of the Virgo, and that was not anything. And you know what? It came and went. 7 years went by, and we still haven't entered the end times. We still haven't had a single trumpet sound. But once they do start sounding, there will be a period of time, as much as 3.5 years. But it says the time period's been shortened to 5 months. I don't think so. But certainly, because I think the 5-month period is a special period of the establishing of the Antichrist order. That's like the reign of terror beginning or whatever. I think that's one of my opinions on that particular thing. But nobody knows the exact day or hour. It has not been revealed when that's going to happen exactly. The Father only. It is not revealed. So, the only one who knows the end from the beginning is truly the Lord. That's why when I talk about destiny, Since you don't know what your destiny is, it could literally be anything. That's the cool part. It's like you don't know. Just because God has made the world and he has set it in motion and he knows what he's doing and he's all-knowing. He knows our decisions before we make it because he knows our will and our makeup in such a way better than we know ourselves. He can anticipate everything because of the way he understands the very function of what we are. We don't understand that, though. We're so wonderfully made, though, that we operate as though we had, like, free will. We're free to be me. I'm free to be me. I mean, I have my own will. I never understood that concept because I can't just suddenly will myself to. If I could just change my will at will, just snap my fingers and exercise instantaneous willpower to shift my will to something that's totally against my nature. Wow. I don't even know. That just seems absurd. The idea of total untethered free will. You have the power to decide. Faith is a gift. It's your faith that saves you, not your free will. And that's another thing that annoys me is that people who play too much with free will, they essentially think free will is what saves you because it's your choice. You got to choose. Whereas the scripture says, you have not chosen me, but I have chosen you and ordained you. Now, like I said, this is something I assent to, and I work with him. I become his workmanship. There is a response thing, but that's not what saves me, though it is my salvation. But as the days of Noah were, so shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. For the days they were before the flood, they were eating and drinking, marrying and giving in marriage, until the day that Noah entered into the ark, and knew not till the flood came and took them all away. So shall also the coming of the Son of Man be. Again, the flood came and destroyed them all. Took them all away is just a euphemistic way of expressing that. Same thing with the days of Lot. Now he did go out. I'll give the rapture people there. He went out of the city, right? Before the wrath of God came. I don't have a problem with that because I do believe that when they kill the two witnesses, right? And then the two witnesses rise. And then the living which remain are also raised at that time, just after them. And the seventh trumpet sounds. And then the kingdoms of this world become Jesus' kingdoms. And he goes and does his business, man. And so we aren't going to be participating in the wrath that Christ pours out on the world. No, that's not for us. Now, the tribulation that occurs before that, with Satan coming down, but Satan and his angels can't hurt you until it's time, okay? Until it's time. They come and torment people, but they're not going to torment you. Because that's what it says. They cannot torment those with the seal of God in their forehead, whatever that means by torment, by the way, you know. It says their torment is as the torment of a scorpion when he striketh man. So to me, I guess I think of that as agony. You know, very painful. Physically, spiritually, I don't know. Both. Like I said, who can tell? But we will have God's seal on our forehead, which will protect us from them. So I do not fear evil angels and such because they have no power of me. I have something much more powerful inside me. You know, but ultimately, when the time comes, they can put you to death, and that's just that. And just the Lord will allow it, so that they can fulfill their sin. You know, that if this is what you will do, slay the innocent and the righteous, those that tell the truth. That's kind of scary. But also, you got to trust the Lord and not be afraid. It's easy to be afraid of men because you see them, right? God you don't see, so you got to trust he who you see not. That's why I think the raising your children well is It's imperative because it really helps them have a proper relationship with God, I think. Because if they have a good relationship with their Father, that helps them understand the concept of a Heavenly Father who is terrifying yet also fascinating. And, I didn't like using that word because I was talking about myself, sort of. But, but for the kids, they love their parents, they love their fathers. There's a awe that comes, they hold them in awe, and at the same time, that negative side of that awe being fearful. And modeling that relationship with trust. So your children trust you. So I think my kids trust me. Because I didn't mess with them. That was one of the things. I don't want to do things that make them not trust me. You know what I mean? So one way that you want to be trustworthy, it's like God. You know how he, Midnight showed up. She didn't usually come in for the Bible study. I see she opened the door too. Trust, being consistent. You can't have one day it's okay to do something and the next day it's not, and the next day it's okay. You got to decide where you're going to draw your lines in the sand, and it's a good thing if they be more important things and not less important things. I've always held the things of this world that get broken. I try to encourage my kids to take care of stuff, to be good stewards. But also when they're little, it's a bit much, and they need to be rambunctious sometimes. And, we had a lot of Goodwill furniture over the year, a lot of donated furniture over the years. Because kids can be hard on the furniture. Life is hard on furniture, right? But our life is much more important than furniture and their lives than furniture and all these, the accoutrement of life, or accoutrements. Is that right? Whatever. The things that go along with life. The affairs of this world. Because that's one of the dangers. You get caught up in the affairs of this life and the deceitfulness of riches and marrying and giving in marriage, just normal life. Grinding at the mill, all those things. But this taking and leaving two in the field is very clear in this context. And like I said, when they asked in Luke 17, when you use that thing, when you say one is taken, the other is left, where are they taken? He's like, taken to the place where the vultures are. Oh, you'll find them where the vultures are plentiful. And that's the meaning of it. The two shall be grinding. One should be taken, the other left. So watch. And again, watch for what? Well, watch for Antichrist. So you don't fall for it and end up with the whore. And, and I don't think you have to be some intellectual. I do think a lot of people who don't even understand what's coming will overcome because in their hearts they know and love the Lord and what's right and they know the difference between right and wrong, and they know how Jesus' coming is supposed to be. And they'll know that he can't just be here and we're not raised from the dead, and that whatever you're doing with this being who pretends to be Jesus and is indeed supernatural and powerful, whatever you're doing with it, it's not of God. There are going to be people who instinctively understand that because they are true believers and they love the Lord, and they're not maybe they think there's going to be a rapture, but they'll figure out pretty quick that it isn't. I see it among the common people. There's a lot of love and wisdom, but there's not always tons of knowledge because that gift isn't given to everyone. But we all, there's a certain amount of knowledge we all have to have. And that's the knowledge, right, wrong, the knowledge of the law of Christ. How we ought to conduct ourselves. You got to know how to possess your vessel in sanctification, as Paul said. That's what we ought to figure out. So watch. You don't know what hour. You don't know exactly when he's coming. You don't want to, fall asleep. If the good man had known at what hour what watch the thief would come, he would have watched. This is, there's an interesting figure of speech because he presumes that he didn't watch and his house was broken up. Just because the thief came and broke it up. Well, if he had known, He would have done that. Just like if they had known, they would not have crucified the Lord. Yeah, because it's kind of against your own interest. Yeah, if you had known that Antichrist, that you were going to end up the great whore worshiping Antichrist, and that was going to be ultimately the end, they always think they're doing the right thing, even though they should know it's the wrong thing. Just like I said, when we say, oh, they're the good guys, they're the good guys. The other guys are terrorists. Like I said, I believe that's a term that they just use on people to deny them rights. They're terrorists without a trial. You know, I don't believe the rights we have, the rights of the Americans believe in, are human rights. They are divinely given. They are not given by government. In fact, our laws say the government cannot take them away. And personally, I feel like the law is Congress can make no law establishing religion here or anywhere. They can make no law abridging speech here or anywhere. They can't say, "Oh, we will forbid all foreigners from being able to speak." That's not. That is. That would be no. You don't have law. You're not allowed to abridge the freedom of speech which exists among humans. It has nothing to do with your law. You don't get to talk about it. You don't get to make laws about it. You shall make no law, no ordinances, no statutes. Be ye also ready. Such an hour as you think not, the Son of Man cometh. Well, and what he's saying is that, well, here's the thing. He's warning. He's like, I should know. I'll be watching, right? Watch. He's giving a very stern warning. Such an hour as ye think not. And that's the plural you, by the way. Be you all ready. Speaking to all. Because ye is like y'all. By the way, in case you didn't know that. Because in Greek they have a plural you. In English we just say you and you for plural. We go you plural, I remember. But down south they say y'all, which is just fine. I even use that sometimes. It's a brilliant invention there. The Son of Man cometh. But yeah, they won't be expecting him. Here's the thing. If we have our eyes open, we will be expecting him. We will know when it is at the door. We will not be surprised. That day will not overtake you as a thief, as it is written. Because why? We do not walk in darkness as others, that day should overtake us as a thief. You do not want that day to overtake you as a thief. The thief cometh to kill and destroy. You know what I mean? That is not for you. Even though the word harpazo, which talks about being caught up in the clouds, yes, it's used like to snatch and all that stuff. But it's not it's not talking of like thieving you. It's like snatching you from destruction or from the danger and all that stuff. But it's the point about the timing. And when he talks about this analogy of the thief, it's not good. It's not, I'm going to come to steal you away and to hide you from your duty, keep you from dying at the hands of Antichrist. No, that's not in the cards. He will not pour out his wrath on you, God forbid. But, you know, like I said, some things happen to us that is not the wrath of God. Bad things happen to good people, and it's not because God hates good people. Okay, blessed is, okay. We're called to be ready. You know, be ready to suffer, be ready to be tempted. Who then is a faithful and wise servant whom his Lord hath made ruler over his household, to give them meat in due season? A wise servant, a faithful servant, whom the Lord will reward and make ruler over his house. You know, this is what we, you know, he's talking to those of us who aspire to service, to do God's will, and to, you know, help people, you know, come to Jesus and grow. I mean, that's the point, right? grow up in him to the fullness of the measure of the stature, the fullness of the measure of the stature of Christ. That's what we want to grow up into. And that's what we shall help each other do. And, that's what what do we do to do that? To give them, it is like you're over a household, just like a man running a house. Well, he's going to, to make him ruler of his household, to give them meat, is like to distribute. It's like, some royalty are named like Spencer because they were originally from a people named Dispenser, which meant that they were kind of the king, someone who worked for the king, often a noble, as the one who would manage the kingdom, doing the footwork and stuff, managing his affairs, So what does it take to be this faithful and wise servant? Blessed is that servant whom his Lord, when he cometh, shall find so doing. Doing what? Watching. Well, or let's say be ready. Not suffering your house to be broken up. How about that? Not, being the good man of the, keeping the house, right? Not letting it get busted up. To me, that's the thief comes and he steals away the word that was sown in your heart. He steals away that which, as it is also written in Luke, to him the hath shall be given, and he shall have the more abundance, but from him that hath not shall be taken even that which he seemeth to have. Because some people seem to have something. They seem to be Christians. But according to Jesus, there's going to be a lot of those people revealed to be people he has never known. I don't even know who you are. That's how alien you are to me. Reminds me of my song I haven't written, but I have an idea for it. You call yourselves my servants. But at Armageddon, Gog and Magog, shalt thou be unto me. Because I think that's actually what the meaning of God. It's not. Don't look for a particular nation. Oh, it's got to be this nation. It's got to be Uzbekistan or some. It's talking about the people who are very far away from God's people. Off, they're it's a name for like the kingdoms as far as you could imagine. And Gog and Magog, alien. I mean, he knows them not. The nations that know not God. When he finds us doing as he has commanded, he will make us ruler over all his goods. In Revelation, it states that over and over again. He that overcometh will I grant to sit with me in my throne, even as I also overcame and am set down with my Father in his throne. He gives us the same, that we are co-heirs with Christ. It's too wonderful to even contemplate. I don't even really dwell on that too much. As far as I know that's the goal, but in the meantime, you don't want to get too full of glory while you're still here on planet Earth. Okay, we still got to wash our feet. All right, we're still touching the ground. Okay, so but if that so when we do and we give heed and we're going to be rewarded. But and if that evil servant shall say in his heart, my Lord delays his coming, maybe the Lord isn't coming. See, the Lord is, that's why I tell you, the Lord is coming. The kingdom of God is at hand. Not the kingdom of God is in abeyance. No. It's at the door. No, well, actually, the kingdom of God is here now. It's within you. But it's not the fullness of it, of course. It must also appear. But it is the beginning. That's how we all start. We all start here. And so he says, my Lord delays his coming and shall smite his fellow servants, both literally and metaphorically. There's different ways to smite people, to defraud them is another way. It can be put for many different ways in which people hurt each other. Start being careless with your tongue. Start being careless about the way you treat other people. Maybe you're careful in church, sweet to everyone in church, but you're a nightmare in the world. You cause misery and despair. Not you, beloved, but one who does such things. And eat and drink with the drunken. Why is that? Again, to begin to fall in line with the world. And to fall into the stupor of the world where they don't know what's going on. They're insensitive often to the thing, why do you care so much about that? What's the big deal about fornication? Why shouldn't kids just go and become sexually active in high school? And why not? Why is that? That's normalized. That's considered like normal. And actually, it's weird. It's so, how normal it's considered for teenagers to become active. The fact, and it was never as, when I was a kid, I had this impression that everyone was, it's like, no, most people were not. And now, because they lament that young people are not doing it as much. They lament because there's more, both male and female, who are not hooking up, as they say. Now, they're not getting married either, which is unfortunate. I mean, I think people should get together, obviously. I'm in favor of marriage. I know it's not for everybody. And also, it could be for anyone, though. I do believe that. I believe that marriage might be for you, but only with the right person. And some people are very unique and only a very, it would take maybe it might be hard to find that right person. Maybe they're not alive at the same time as you, so it's like, that can be rough. But if we don't have a marriage, that doesn't mean we have to be lonely. And, my family, my large family means that I have fellowship with other believers, even without going to a traditional church. But if you don't have family and you aren't married, it's a good idea to be connected with other believers. I certainly never want to discourage people from gathering together in the name of Christ. Especially over most of the doctrinal differences, I can live with, but I can never really be part of a church that teaches things that are, pretty much any church. I don't think I can do it. The Lord of the servant shall come when he looks not for him, in an hour that he's not aware of. He's not going to be aware of it. That you look at the scene in Revelation 11, when the two witnesses are slain, they're sending gifts to each other. They're rejoicing. That's when this happens. Those are the evil servants, the great whore. They're going to be so happy. Oh, our Lord is now going to be everyone in the world. And now whatever he's been promising, the great and glorious kingdom is going to begin. Now that we've rid ourselves of these who would speak against him. Nope. And shall cut him in sunder and appoint him his portion with the hypocrites. Because that's where you belong. Hey, if the Pharisees, don't think that you can just do as the Pharisees did. And Jesus is like, well, but you're one of my believers. So that means you're okay. That's where people don't get it. It's not like, he's not like that. Oh, you're one of mine. That's all right. I let mine do whatever they want. No. The Lord is not like that. No, in fact, he expects better of us. That's why he's chosen us to be, that's why he calls us his elect. He has chosen us. That we should be a peculiar people. We've been grafted in with Israel. The idea of Israel as a holy nation it finds new life in the idea of the church, that mystical body of Christ, which is unified, which is one, which has nothing to do with those earthly organizations that pretend to be it, but could never be. They're just the empty shells of men's lives left over, and men wander through them and repeat the same errors. I don't know if that makes any sense. Anyways, there shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth. I like to point out gnashing, think of it in grinding. They will weep and grind their teeth. The idea of grinding, there is regret and also resentment. The grinding of teeth can indicate a sort of a anger in those tears, rage, because you think you're so right. I can imagine. I pity them. I do. I'll tell you what, they're going to put that to the test, because by the time they get done with me, I might not feel the same way, if I should see those days, right? If I should see those days. But here's the thing. You should be thinking like this. The way I think about, because you never know when you'll be called upon. Those that have not prepared themselves, that are not made ready, that did not see the signs, didn't get themselves ready for the thing, and stay up and watch for the when it should be watched. They keep watch. Notice the goodman of the house, he doesn't count on which watch the thief is going to come. He watches. He watches his house. He doesn't just hope for the 1 hour and then just the rest of the time. No, he doesn't know, so he's got to watch at all times. We'll watch at all times. Anyways, that concludes this chapter. We'll pick it up at 25 tomorrow. Hopefully, I don't know, man. My voice, I might lose it this week. We'll see. Anyways, thanks for joining me. I look forward to being back again tomorrow, real soon. Until then, remember the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy, and he is the fulfillment of the law.
Now learn a parable of the fig tree. When a branch is yet tender and put forth leaves, you know that summer is near. So you in like manner, when you see these things come to pass, know that it is near, even at the doors.
Verily I say to you,
That this generation shall not pass till all these things be done. Heaven and earth shall pass away, but my words shall not pass away. But of that day and of that hour knoweth no man. No, not the angels which are in heaven, neither the Son, but the Father.
take ye heed, watch and pray, for you know not when the time is.
For the Son of Man is as a man taking a far journey, who left his house and gave authority to his servants, and to every man his work, and commanded the porter to watch.
Watch ye therefore, for you know not when the master of the house cometh.
At even, or at midnight, or at the cockcrowing, or in the morning, lest coming suddenly he find you sleeping.
And what I say